What you are about to hear is a work of fiction. The people, places, and events depicted in this story are products of the author's imagination or used fictitiously. Any resemblance to actual individuals, living or deceased, or to real situations is purely coincidental. These stories may explore themes of crime, injustice, and human suffering. While fictional, they reflect real emotions and difficult truths that some may find disturbing. Listener discretion is advised.
I trusted you with everything, Charles. Emma's voice cracked as she stood in the boardroom, her laptop open displaying the damning evidence. 8 years I looked up to you, and this whole time you were stealing from our clients and framing me for it. Please let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We love seeing just how far our stories reach. But let's go back to where this all began, 3 weeks earlier. Emma Thompson adjusted her glasses and squinted at the computer screen, the blue glow casting shadows across her tired face in the dimly lit office. At 35, she had spent the last 8 years building her reputation as Harper & Stone's most meticulous senior accountant, and tonight was no different. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead as she worked through the third quarter financials, her desk fortress of color-coded spreadsheets and coffee-stained notepads reflecting her dedication to precision. Chicago's financial district hummed quietly outside the windows, most of her colleagues having left hours ago. Emma preferred these quiet evening hours when she could focus without interruption, diving deep into the numbers that had always made perfect sense to her. Tonight, however, something didn't add up. She leaned closer to the screen, her pulse quickening as she scrolled through a series of transfers that seemed oddly placed. Small amounts scattered across several months, $5,000 here, $7,000 there, $12,000 from another account. Individually, they looked insignificant, but together they painted a troubling picture. "What the hell?" Emma muttered, pushing her auburn hair behind her ear as she cross-referenced the transfers with the client database. Every transaction was labeled as consulting fees and directed to something called Bright Future LLC. She'd never heard of this company, and when she searched their internal systems, she found no contracts, no invoices, no documentation of any kind. Emma's stomach churned as she totaled the amounts. Nearly $1 million had been transferred to this mysterious company over the past 18 months. Her hands trembled slightly as she pulled up the authorization logs, hoping to find some explanation, some oversight she had missed. The signatures on the transfers made her blood run cold. According to the system, she had authorized every single one. "This is impossible," she whispered to the empty office. Emma had never heard of Bright Future LLC, let alone authorized payments to them. Someone had used her digital signature without her knowledge, and the implications made her feel sick. She spent the next 2 hours digging deeper, her coffee growing cold as she traced the money trail. The payments came from various client accounts, always small enough to avoid triggering automatic fraud alerts, but substantial enough to add up to grand theft. Someone had been very careful, very methodical, and very clever about covering their tracks. Emma thought about her mentor, Charles Harrington, the silver-haired senior partner who had guided her career since she joined the firm fresh out of Northwestern. He had been the one to promote her to senior accountant, the one who praised her attention to detail and encouraged her to stay late when necessary. Surely he would want to know about this immediately. She drafted an email, her fingers hesitating over the keyboard. "Charles, I've discovered some irregularities in our Q3 financials. Significant unauthorized transfers to an entity called Bright Future LLC. Can we discuss this first thing tomorrow? I've documented everything. Emma." After hitting send, Emma gathered her papers and locked her computer, the weight of her discovery settling heavily on her shoulders. As she walked through the empty office toward the elevators, she couldn't shake the feeling that she had just stepped into something much bigger than a simple accounting error. The next morning, Emma sat across from Charles Harrington in his corner office, the morning sun streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows that offered a commanding view of downtown Chicago. Harrington's office reflected his status leather-bound books, awards from various accounting associations, and a mahogany desk that probably cost more than Emma's annual salary. "You look concerned, Emma." Harrington said, his voice carrying the warm authority that had always made her feel secure. At 62, he commanded respect throughout the firm, his silver hair and tailored suits, giving him a distinguished presence that clients found reassuring. "I am concerned," Emma replied, sliding her printed report across his desk. "These transfers don't match any client activity I can find. No contracts, no invoices, nothing to justify nearly $1 million in payments." Harrington picked up the report, his gold cufflinks catching the light as he flipped through the pages. His expression remained neutral, professional, but Emma noticed a slight tightening around his eyes as he reviewed the numbers. "Bright Future LLC," he mused, as if the name meant nothing to him. "And you're certain these transactions are unauthorized?" "Completely certain," Emma said, leaning forward in her chair. "I've cross-checked everything multiple times. The money is gone and there's no legitimate business purpose for any of these payments." Harrington set down the report and leaned back in his leather chair, steepling his fingers in a gesture Emma had seen him make countless times during client meetings. "You've done excellent work as always, Emma. This is exactly the kind of thoroughness that makes you valuable to this firm." Emma felt a flutter of relief at his praise, the same warmth she'd experienced as a junior accountant when Harrington had first acknowledged her potential. "However," he continued, his voice taking on a more serious tone, "we need to handle this delicately. If word gets out that we've had unauthorized transfers, it could panic our clients and damage the firm's reputation. I want you to keep this between us while I investigate quietly." "Can I count on your discretion?" "Of course," Emma said without hesitation. She trusted Harrington completely. He had been her champion, her mentor, the person who had shaped her career. If he said he would handle it, she believed him. "Good," Harrington said, standing to signal the end of their meeting. "Don't discuss this with anyone else for now. I'll get to the bottom of it, I promise." Emma left his office feeling lighter, confident that she had done the right thing by bringing the irregularities to his attention. She trusted Harrington to fix whatever had gone wrong, and she returned to her desk ready to focus on her regular responsibilities. What Emma didn't see was Harrington reaching for his phone the moment his office door closed behind her. "We have a problem," he said quietly to whoever answered. "Emma Thompson found the Bright Future transfers. We need to move quickly." 3 days later, Emma was still waiting for an update from Harrington when she decided to run one more check on the suspicious transfers. What she found made her heart stop. According to the updated system logs, her digital signature was now on every single authorization for the Bright Future payments. Not only that, but the timestamps showed that she had apparently been making these transfers for over 18 months, dating back to shortly after her promotion to senior accountant. Emma stared at the screen in disbelief, her hands shaking as she scrolled through transaction after transaction bearing her name. Someone had meticulously backdated her involvement, creating a digital trail that painted her as the architect of the entire scheme. "This can't be happening," she whispered, looking around the office to see if anyone was watching her. Her colleagues continued their work, oblivious to the nightmare unfolding at her desk. She immediately tried calling Harrington, but his secretary said he was in meetings all day. Emma spent her lunch hour in the bathroom, splashing cold water on her face and trying to think clearly. Someone was framing her, and they had done a very professional job of it. That evening, Emma called her best friend, Lisa Carter, from the safety of her apartment, her voice shaking as she explained what had happened. "Slow down, Em," Lisa said, her calm journalist instincts kicking in. "Tell me exactly what you found." Emma walked Lisa through the discovery of the transfers, her meeting with Harrington, and the appearance of her forged signatures. Lisa listened without interruption, asking pointed questions that helped Emma organize her thoughts. "This stinks, Emma," Lisa said finally. "Harrington's either incompetent or involved. Given that someone had administrative access to plant your signature in the system, I'm betting on involved." "But he's been my mentor for 8 years, Emma protested. "He's the one who promoted me, who taught me everything I know about forensic accounting." "Which would make you the perfect fall guy," Lisa replied bluntly. "Think about it, you're known for being thorough and detail-oriented. If money goes missing and your signature is on the authorizations, who's going to question it?" The truth of Lisa's words hit Emma like a physical blow. She sank onto her couch, the full scope of her situation becoming clear. What am I going to do, Lisa? If they're setting me up, I could lose everything: my career, my reputation, maybe even face criminal charges. You're going to fight back? Lisa said firmly. I have a friend who's a cybersecurity expert. Let me make some calls. We're going to find out exactly what happened and who's behind it. The next morning, Emma arrived at work early, hoping to catch Harrington before his day filled with meetings. She found him in his office, already dressed in an impeccable navy suit and reviewing documents over coffee. Charles, I need to talk to you about those transfers, she said, closing his office door behind her. Something's very wrong. My digital signature is showing up on authorizations I never made. Harrington looked up from his papers, his expression shifting from mild annoyance to concern. What do you mean? Someone's backdated my authorization on all the bright future payments. According to the system, I've been making these transfers for over a year, but I swear to you, I never authorized any of them. Emma watched carefully as Harrington processed this information, looking for any sign of surprise or alarm. Instead, she saw something that chilled her a moment of calculation before his expression settled into practiced sympathy. That's very troubling, Emma, he said slowly. Have you discussed this with anyone else? No, you told me to keep it confidential, she replied. But Charles, someone has to help me figure out how my signature got on those documents. This makes me look like a criminal. Harrington stood and walked to his window, his hands clasped behind his back. Emma, I want you to know that this firm values loyalty above all else. Sometimes investigations reveal things that are uncomfortable for everyone involved. Emma felt a chill run down her spine. There was something in his tone that sounded like a warning rather than reassurance. What are you saying? I'm saying that we need to be very careful about how we proceed, he replied, turning back to face her. False accusations can destroy careers, Emma. I'd hate to see you make any mistakes that you'd regret later. Before Emma could respond, Harrington's secretary knocked on the door. Mr. Harrington? Miss Reynolds from HR needs to see Miss Thompson immediately. Emma's blood turned to ice. HR wants to see me? It's probably just routine, Harrington said, but his eyes held no warmth. Go ahead, Emma. We'll continue this conversation later. Emma walked to the HR office on unsteady legs, her mind racing through possibilities, none of them good. Miss Reynolds, a stern woman in her 50s who handled all employee disciplinary matters, gestured for Emma to sit in the small conference room adjacent to her office. To Emma's surprise, a younger HR associate, James Mitchell, was also present with a thick folder of documents. Emma, we've received some concerning information about irregularities in your account authorizations. Miss Reynolds began, her voice professionally neutral. There appear to be significant unauthorized transfers associated with your digital signature. Miss Reynolds, I can explain, Emma started, but the HR director held up her hand. Mr. Harrington briefed us on the situation. Given the serious nature of these allegations, we're placing you on administrative leave pending a full investigation. Emma felt the room spinning around her. Administrative leave? But I'm the one who discovered the fraud. I reported it to Mr. Harrington myself. James Mitchell cleared his throat and leaned forward. Miss Thompson, I want to assure you that HR is initiating a comprehensive internal investigation independent of Mr. Harrington's concerns. You'll be given every opportunity to present your side of the story and any evidence you may have. Miss Reynolds shot him a sharp look, but he continued. We understand this is a serious situation that affects your career and reputation. While we must follow protocol for financial irregularities, the investigation will be thorough and fair. Your employment status is suspended effective immediately, Miss Reynolds said, consulting her notes. Please gather your personal belongings and surrender your access badge and laptop. However, Mr. Mitchell will be your point of contact throughout the investigation process. Emma stumbled back to her desk in a daze, her colleagues' curious stares following her as she packed her few personal items into a small box. 8 years of dedication, of late nights and perfect audits, reduced to a cardboard box and a security escort to the elevator. As the elevator doors closed, Emma caught sight of Harrington watching from his office window, his expression unreadable. For the first time since she'd known him, she saw him for what he really was: not a mentor, but a predator who had been planning her downfall from the very beginning. That afternoon, Lisa arrived at Emma's apartment with takeout food and a determined expression. Emma had been crying on and off since returning home, the reality of her situation settling in like a heavy weight on her chest. "Okay, enough tears," Lisa said, setting up her laptop on Emma's dining table. "We're going to war." "Lisa, I don't think you understand how bad this is," Emma said, wiping her eyes with a tissue. "They have my signature on everything. It looks like I've been stealing from clients for over a year. Who's going to believe me?" "I believe you," Lisa said firmly. "And more importantly, I know someone who can prove you're being framed." Lisa pulled out her phone and dialed a number. "Alex, it's Lisa Carter. I need a favor, and it's urgent." 20 minutes later, Alex Morrison appeared on Lisa's laptop screen via video call. Emma had never met him, but Lisa had mentioned her cybersecurity expert friend before, a quiet, intense man who specialized in digital forensics for law firms and corporations. "Lisa filled me in on the basics," Alex said, his image pixelated but his voice clear. "Emma, I'm going to need you to walk me through exactly what you found and when you found it. Every detail matters." Emma spent the next hour recounting her discovery of the transfers, her meeting with Harrington, and the appearance of her forged signatures. Alex listened intently, occasionally asking technical questions about the firm's computer systems and security protocols. "Based on what you're telling me, someone with administrative access backdated your digital signature onto those authorization forms," Alex said. "The good news is that kind of manipulation leaves traces in the server logs, but Emma, I can only work with evidence you legally obtained. I'm a licensed digital forensics expert who works with law firms. I can't hack into company systems without destroying my credibility and making any evidence inadmissible." Emma felt her heart sink. "So what can you do?" "I can analyze the data you already have access to," Alex said encouragingly. "Your own files, your backup records, anything you legitimately saved during your work. If you're as thorough as you seem to be, you probably have more evidence than you realize." That evening, Emma couldn't sleep. She paced her apartment, replaying every interaction she'd had with Harrington over the past 8 years, looking for signs she had missed. Had he always been planning to use her as a scapegoat? Had every compliment, every piece of career advice been part of an elaborate setup? Then Emma remembered something. During her years at the firm, she had developed a habit of backing up her work to a personal cloud drive practice she'd started after a system crash in her second year had nearly cost her a week's worth of audit work. She had copies of all her reports, email records, and even screenshots she'd taken when training junior staff on proper procedures. She rushed to her laptop and began searching through her backup files. If someone had forged her digital signature, there might be evidence in her own records that could prove when she actually accessed the system versus when the transfers claimed to have been authorized. Around 3 a.m, Lisa called back after speaking with Alex again. "Emma, Alex wants to help, but he can only work with evidence you legally obtained," Lisa explained. "He's a licensed digital forensics expert who works with law firms. She can't hack into company systems without destroying his credibility and making any evidence inadmissible." Emma felt her heart sink. "So what can he do?" "He can analyze the data you already have access to," Lisa said encouragingly. "Your own files, your backup records, anything you legitimately saved during your work. Alex says that if you're as thorough as you seem to be, you probably have more evidence than you realize." "Actually," Emma said, looking at her computer screen, "I think I might. I've been backing up my work for years, and I have detailed records of my login times, email timestamps, everything." The next evening, Alex arrived at Emma's apartment with a portable forensics kit, ready to analyze her backup files. Emma was surprised by how professional and methodical he appeared, not the underground hacker she had been imagining, but a serious expert in a crisp button-down shirt who treated her data with the same respect a detective would treat evidence. "Emma, walk me through your backup system," Alex said, setting up his equipment on her dining table. I need to understand exactly what data you have and when it was created. Emma spent the next hour walking Alex through her meticulous filing system. She showed him screenshots she had taken when training junior staff, backup copies of reports with original timestamps, and detailed logs of her login activities that she had maintained for security purposes. "This is exactly what we need," Alex said, examining the metadata on Emma's files. "Look at this. You have screenshots of the transfer authorizations from when you first discovered them, and they show no signatures at all. But the current versions in the system show your signature backdated to months ago." Emma leaned over his shoulder as Alex displayed the comparison. "So this proves my signature was added later?" "Absolutely. The metadata doesn't lie," Alex explained. "Your original screenshots are timestamped, and they clearly show unsigned authorization forms. Someone went back and digitally added your signature after the fact." Alex continued analyzing Emma's backup files, finding her email records that showed exactly when she had first contacted Harrington about the suspicious transfers. More importantly, he found evidence in her own login logs that proved she hadn't been accessing the authorization system during the times when the fraudulent transfers were allegedly approved. "Emma, your attention to detail is what's going to save you," Alex said with admiration. "You have a complete paper trail that proves your innocence. Your backup emails show when you first reported the fraud, your screenshots show the original unsigned forms, and your access logs prove you weren't even in the system when these transfers were supposedly authorized." Even more valuable was what Alex found in Emma's archived email folders. She had saved copies of several messages from Harrington over the years, including some that now seemed suspicious in hindsight. One email from 6 months earlier mentioned streamlining our authorization processes and reducing unnecessary documentation requirements, language that now clearly seemed designed to reduce oversight of his embezzlement scheme. Lisa was already taking notes, her journalist instincts organizing the information into a coherent narrative. This is enough to clear Emma and expose Harrington's fraud. The question is, what's the best way to present this evidence? Emma wiped away tears of relief and anger. "I want to confront him. I want to look him in the eye when I show him that I know what he's done." "That's dangerous, Em," Lisa warned. "If he's desperate enough to frame you, who knows what else he might do?" "I'm not talking about confronting him alone," Emma clarified. "I want to present this evidence to the board of directors. Let them see what kind of man they've trusted with their firm's reputation." Alex nodded approvingly. "That's smart. The board has the authority to take immediate action, and they'll want to distance the firm from Harrington as quickly as possible once they see this evidence. Plus, everything we've found comes from Emma's own legally obtained files, so it's completely admissible." Over the next 2 weeks, Emma and Lisa worked together to prepare a comprehensive presentation for Harper & Stone's board of directors. Alex helped them organize the digital evidence professionally, creating a timeline that showed the clear contradiction between Emma's backup files and the current system records. "The beauty of this case," Alex explained as they prepared the final presentation, "is that Emma's own professional habits created an unbreakable chain of evidence. Her backups, screenshots, and email records tell a story that can't be disputed." Emma practiced her presentation repeatedly, determined to remain calm and professional, despite the emotional weight of Harrington's betrayal. Lisa helped her anticipate questions and organize the technical evidence in a way that would be clear to board members who might not have accounting backgrounds. As they worked, Emma remembered her relationship with Patricia Williams, one of the external board directors. Patricia had been a mentor to women in the accounting field and had always been approachable during the firm's quarterly meetings. Emma had occasionally consulted with her about professional development, and Patricia had always been encouraging about Emma's career trajectory. "I think I know how to approach the board," Emma said suddenly during one of their preparation sessions. Patricia Williams, she's an external director, and she's always been supportive of transparency and professional ethics. If I can present the evidence to her first, she might be willing to bring it to the full board. Lisa nodded approvingly. That's much smarter than trying to demand a meeting on your own. She'd have the credibility to make the board take this seriously. 2 days later, Emma sat across from Patricia Williams in a quiet coffee shop downtown, her laptop bag containing the carefully organized evidence that could save her career. Patricia, a distinguished woman in her mid-60s with silver hair and sharp eyes, listened intently as Emma explained her situation. "Patricia, I know this sounds incredible, but I have evidence that proves Charles Harrington has been embezzling from client accounts and framing me to cover his tracks," Emma said, her voice steady despite her nervousness. Patricia's expression grew grave. "Those are very serious allegations, Emma. What kind of evidence are you talking about?" Emma opened her laptop and began showing Patricia the key pieces, her original screenshots of unsigned authorization forms, the backup files proving when she had first discovered and reported the fraud, and the metadata analysis that proved her signature had been backdated. "This is compelling," Patricia said after reviewing the evidence for nearly an hour. "If this is accurate, it represents not just fraud, but a systematic betrayal of the board's trust and our fiduciary responsibility to clients." "I know it's a lot to ask," Emma said, "but I need the board to see this evidence. Harrington is destroying my reputation while he covers up his own crimes." Patricia closed the laptop and looked directly at Emma. "I'll arrange an emergency board meeting for tomorrow afternoon. This evidence needs to be presented formally, and the board needs to take immediate action if these allegations are substantiated." Relief washed over Emma as she realized she finally had an ally with the influence to make the board listen. "Thank you, Patricia. I know you're taking a risk supporting me." "Emma, I've watched your work for years. Your integrity and attention to detail are exactly why this firm values you. If someone is trying to destroy that reputation for their own criminal purposes, the board needs to know immediately." Emma dressed carefully in her most professional suit, the navy blue one she had worn to important client presentations. She wanted the board to see her as the competent, trustworthy accountant she had always been, not the suspected embezzler Harrington had tried to make her appear. The boardroom at Harper & Stone was an imposing space, with a long mahogany table and leather chairs that had witnessed decades of important decisions. 5 board members were present: Chairman Williams, Patricia Williams, 2 other external directors, and 1 senior partner from the firm. Emma was surprised to see that Harrington was also present, sitting at the far end of the table with a confident expression that made her stomach clench. Also present was Margaret Foster, the firm's general counsel, a sharp-eyed woman in her 40s who Emma recognized from compliance meetings. "Miss Thompson," Chairman Williams said, "Patricia has briefed us that you have evidence related to the financial irregularities currently under investigation. Before we proceed, I want to note that Miss Foster is here representing the firm's interests, and I'd strongly recommend you have legal counsel present for a matter this serious." Emma took a deep breath. "Thank you, Chairman Williams, but I'm confident in my evidence and I'd prefer to proceed. I have nothing to hide." Margaret Foster leaned forward. "Miss Thompson, I want to be clear that anything you say here could potentially be used in legal proceedings. Are you certain you want to continue without representation?" "I'm certain," Emma replied firmly, opening her laptop and connecting it to the room's presentation screen. "Chairman Williams, members of the board, I have evidence that will clarify the true nature of these irregularities." She began with the timeline, showing how she had discovered the suspicious transfers during her routine audit and immediately reported them to Harrington. The board members leaned forward, paying close attention as Emma walked them through her investigation. "What I discovered next," Emma continued, "was that someone had used my digital signature to authorize these transfers after I had already reported them as suspicious." She displayed Alex's analysis of her backup files, showing the clear timestamps that proved her signature had been added to the authorization forms after she had already reported them as suspicious. Several board members exchanged glances, and Emma noticed Harrington shifting uncomfortably in his chair. "Furthermore," Emma said, her voice growing stronger, "my own backup records show a pattern of suspicious activity that I had unknowingly documented over time." She displayed her archived emails from Harrington, including the messages about streamlining authorization processes that now clearly seemed designed to reduce oversight. The board members leaned forward as Emma walked them through her own meticulous records that painted a clear picture of Harrington's gradual elimination of safeguards. It was at this moment that Emma's voice cracked with emotion, and she looked directly at Harrington for the first time since entering the room. "I trusted you with everything, Charles," she said, her voice carrying 8 years of hurt and betrayal. 8 years I looked up to you, and this whole time you were stealing from our clients and framing me for it. Harrington's face had gone pale, his confident demeanor cracking as the weight of the evidence mounted against him. "Emma, you don't understand the pressures I was under." "Pressures?" Emma interrupted, her anger finally breaking through her professional composure. "You destroyed my reputation to cover up your own greed. You made me believe I was your protege when I was just your insurance policy." Chairman Williams called for order, but his attention was focused on the evidence displayed on the screen. "Mr. Harrington, these records appear to show extensive planning for embezzlement and fraud. Do you have an explanation for these communications?" Harrington looked around the room, seeing no sympathy in the faces of his colleagues. Emma's interpretation of routine communications is clearly biased. She's trying to cover her own theft with conspiracy theories." Emma felt a surge of rage at his continued lies. "Conspiracy theories? My own backup files don't lie, Charles. The timestamps on my screenshots don't lie. My login records proving I wasn't even in the system when these transfers were allegedly made don't lie. The only lies here are the ones you've been telling for years while you stole from our clients." One of the external board members spoke up. "Miss Thompson, can you verify the authenticity of this digital evidence?" "Absolutely," Emma replied, regaining her composure. "Mr. Morrison is standing by to walk you through his forensic analysis of my backup files. Every piece of evidence comes from my own legally maintained records, with proper timestamps and metadata intact." The board spent the next hour reviewing the evidence in detail, asking technical questions that Emma answered with the precision that had made her reputation. Margaret Foster took detailed notes and asked several pointed questions about the chain of custody for Emma's backup files. Harrington's attempts to deflect blame grew increasingly desperate as the weight of proof mounted against him. Finally, Chairman Williams called for a recess while the board and legal counsel deliberated privately. Emma waited in the hallway outside the boardroom, her heart pounding as she realized that her entire future depended on the next few minutes. When the board reconvened, Chairman Williams's expression was grave. "Mr. Harrington, based on the evidence presented today, this board has voted unanimously to terminate your employment effective immediately. We are also referring this matter to law enforcement for criminal investigation." Emma felt a wave of relief wash over her as 2 security guards entered the room. Harrington's face had gone ashen as the reality of his situation became clear. "Miss Thompson," Chairman Williams continued, "please accept our deepest apologies for the distress this situation has caused you. Your suspension is lifted immediately, and we would like to discuss a promotion that recognizes both your integrity and your investigative skills." As the security guards escorted Harrington from the room, he stopped beside Emma's chair. "You have no idea what you've done," he said quietly, his voice filled with venom. Emma looked up at him calmly. "I've done exactly what you taught me to do, Charles. I followed the numbers and they led me to the truth." Later that afternoon, Emma stood outside Harper and Stone's building as police officers led Harrington away in handcuffs. A small crowd of employees had gathered to watch, their whispered conversations creating a buzz of shock and disbelief. Lisa appeared at Emma's side, having rushed over as soon as Emma called with the news. "How are you feeling?" she asked, studying her friend's face for signs of trauma or relief. "Hollow," Emma admitted. "I thought I'd feel more satisfied seeing him get what he deserved. Instead, I just feel empty. 8 years of my life were built on a lie." "No," Lisa said firmly. 8 years of your life were spent becoming the kind of person who could expose that lie. Your integrity, your attention to detail, your refusal to give up those are real, Emma. Harrington may have tried to use those qualities against you, but in the end, they're what saved you. Over the next few weeks, the full scope of Harrington's crimes became public as law enforcement investigated the case. The media coverage was extensive, with headlines describing him as a trusted mentor turned predator who had systematically embezzled nearly $2 million over 3 years. Emma watched from a distance as Harrington's carefully constructed life fell apart. His wife filed for divorce after learning about the offshore accounts in her name, claiming she had no knowledge of his crimes. The Chicago Bar Association revoked his CPA license, and several professional organizations expelled him from membership. Most satisfying to Emma was learning that Harrington's reputation in Chicago's financial community was completely destroyed. Colleagues who had once sought his advice now avoided him, and the exclusive country club where he had entertained clients for decades asked him to surrender his membership. Faced with overwhelming evidence from Emma's backup files and the board's investigation, Harrington's attorney quickly negotiated a plea deal. Rather than face a lengthy trial with certain conviction, Harrington agreed to plead guilty to embezzlement and fraud charges in exchange for a reduced sentence of 6 years in federal prison and full restitution to Harper & Stone's clients. Emma attended the plea hearing, wanting to see justice served with her own eyes. As part of the agreement, Harrington was required to make a full confession detailing his crimes. Standing before the judge, he admitted to systematically embezzling nearly $2 million over 3 years and attempting to frame Emma Thompson to cover his tracks. "I manipulated Miss Thompson's trust and used her reputation to hide my own criminal activity," Harrington said, his voice barely audible as he read from his prepared statement. "I betrayed not only the firm's clients, but also a dedicated employee who had done nothing wrong." Emma watched from the gallery as her former mentor's carefully constructed facade finally crumbled completely. When the judge asked if she wanted to make a victim impact statement, she stood and faced Harrington directly. "For 8 years, you made me believe that you saw potential in me," she said, her voice steady and clear. "You taught me to trust my instincts, to follow the evidence, and to never compromise my integrity. In the end, those lessons helped me expose your crimes and prove my innocence. So, in a twisted way, I suppose I should thank you. You made me stronger than I ever knew I could be." Harrington looked away, unable to meet her eyes, and Emma felt the last vestiges of his power over her finally disappear. 3 months after the trial, Emma was sitting in her new office ironically, the same corner office that had once belonged to Harrington, when Lisa arrived with coffee and congratulations on Emma's promotion to senior partner. "I still can't believe they gave you his office," Lisa said, looking around at the space Emma had completely redecorated. Gone were the leather-bound books and formal portraits, replaced with modern furniture, plants, and photos of Emma with friends and family. "Patricia Williams suggested it," Emma laughed. "She said it was poetic justice, plus the view really is spectacular." Lisa settled into one of the comfortable chairs Emma had arranged in a conversation area by the windows. "How does it feel, being back where you started but in charge this time?" Emma considered the question as she looked out at the Chicago skyline. "Different. Better. I'm not trying to impress anyone anymore or prove that I belong here. I know who I am and what I'm capable of." "The firm's doing well too," Lisa observed. "I heard you gained 3 new clients this month." 5, actually. Emma corrected with a smile. "Word gets around in our industry. Clients like knowing their accountant is someone who will fight for integrity even when it costs her everything." Emma had indeed transformed Harper & Stone's reputation in the months following Harrington's conviction. Her story of exposing fraud at personal cost had made her something of a legend in Chicago's financial community, and clients specifically requested to work with the woman who had risked her career to protect their interests. "I have something for you," Lisa said, pulling a small wrapped package from her purse, a belated celebration gift. Emma unwrapped the gift to find a small silver picture frame containing a photo of the two of them at coffee shop, laughing over some shared joke. The inscription on the frame read, "For Emma, who taught me that true friends fight for each other." "Lisa?" Emma said, her eyes filling with tears. "I don't know what I would have done without you. When everyone else was ready to believe I was a criminal, you never doubted me for a second." "That's what real friendship looks like," Lisa replied, reaching over to squeeze Emma's hand. "Besides, I knew you were innocent from the moment you called me crying. Emma Thompson might be meticulous enough to embezzle money without getting caught, but she's way too honest to lie to her best friend about it." They both laughed, and Emma realized that despite everything she had lost her naive trust, her belief in mentorship, her sense of security, she had gained something more valuable: absolute certainty about who she was and who she could count on. As Lisa prepared to leave, Emma walked her to the elevator, passing the cubicle where she had spent 8 years building her career under Harrington's watchful eye. A young accountant now sat there, working intently on a client audit with the same dedication Emma had once shown. "Do you ever regret staying?" Lisa asked as they waited for the elevator. "You could have started your own firm, left all this behind." Emma shook her head. "This is where I belong. The firm needed someone to rebuild its reputation, and the staff needed to see that integrity matters more than loyalty to corrupt leadership. Besides," she added with a grin, "someone has to make sure the numbers tell the truth." The elevator doors opened, and Lisa stepped inside. "Same time next week for coffee?" she asked. "Wouldn't miss it," Emma replied. "And Lisa, thank you for believing in me when I couldn't believe in myself." As the elevator doors closed, Emma returned to her office and settled behind her desk to review the day's work. The late afternoon sun streamed through the windows, casting a warm glow over the reports and spreadsheets that covered her desk. She opened her laptop and began reviewing a new client's financial statements, her trained eye scanning for irregularities with the same meticulous attention that had uncovered Harrington's crimes. The numbers flowed across her screen in neat rows and columns, honest and precise, telling their story to anyone skilled enough to read them. Emma smiled as she worked, finally understanding that her greatest strength had never been her ability to impress authority figures or climb corporate ladders. Her power lay in her unwillingness to compromise her principles, even when doing so would have been easier, safer, and more comfortable. The ledger of lies had been balanced at last, and Emma Thompson had found her way home to the truth that had always been waiting in the numbers, honest and unchanging, ready to reveal their secrets to anyone brave enough to look. Thank you for listening until the end. If you enjoyed the story, please consider leaving us a like. This helps us reach more people.